Okay, class, welcome. This is Monday, day one of our PBL, project-based learning, the PBL called If I Were in Charge. Um, Before we get into that, let me talk about a few things some of you are wondering about your test. At the time that I'm recording this, a little looks like just before 2 o'clock here on Friday, I had not graded your test because obviously you're still taking your test. I'm closing out for most of you in about 1 minute, or the computer will automatically do that. But if you have not taken this test, then you currently have a 0 out of 50 on this test, and you must reach me and talk to me about why you didn't take it and what we may be able to do to have a makeup test. So make sure that is in. Also notice that there's well, honors, you already had the next part of your essay assigned. I think that's real clear with you guys. For all my other students, you have a document of the week. That document of the week is going to post every Monday for the rest of the academic year, and it is due by the start of your class on Friday. Way too many students missed out on getting those easy points for the document of the week. They are due by the start of your class time period, which I've rounded up a little bit, but in the roundabout area of your time period. So first period, I think I collected 8:35 or 8:40. Uh, Third period, excuse me, fourth period, I think it's just 11. You know, right around that time, I had to plug in a time on the computer. So make sure you get those in. Okay, let's talk a little bit about this PBL. We are going to have the same objectives for the rest of the year. Our objectives are going to be one of these two: identify facts to back up a concern or issue with either the domestic economy, environment, international business, or national security, and convince your peers that your solution you've crafted is valid. That probably doesn't make a lot of sense yet, but it will soon. So let me give you an idea of what we're doing here. We are basically writing a bill. A bill is a proposed law, and we'll take these bills that you craft and we will debate them. And we'll see which solutions you can get the majority of your peers to agree upon. If we have some really good solutions, we will pass those on to our actual real life Congress people. So this is a project where you're going to be working much more with either with your own research or with your group researching things. You will have to listen to me much, much less. So let's take a look at the points real quick, just so that we understand where we're at. So the remaining points for the year, that if you've taken the civil rights test, that's it for tests for the year. We are going to have the honors essay, which is being done in portions. I think you guys know about that. That's worth 50 points. For first, fourth, sixth, and seventh, you'll have documents of the week every week worth 10 points each. Other than those documents of the week or essays for honors, the PBL is the last assignment for the year, but it will be done in parts. So altogether, it's worth 60 points. But this week, you'll have the planning form. Next week, the bill. The week, really probably the 2 weeks after that, your presentation. There'll be a few of you who will have, instead of 60 points, just a couple of you will have either 55 or 65. I'll get into that a little bit later. I wouldn't worry too much about it. But my objective today is just to give you an overview of what we're doing. I'm actually not assigning any portion of this until tomorrow. But if you don't watch this, I think the whole thing is going to be very confusing. And then you have one small task for today. So what I've done is I've created Google Forms for each one of these parts. Again, I'm not just going to set you loose and say, go write a bill. I know that that is not something most of you are familiar with or comfortable with. So we've broken it up into pieces. Now, again, I will share these forms with you when it becomes relevant. But the first thing I will show you is the planning form. So you will get this on Tuesday. You won't have to hear much from me on Tuesday, just some reminders. But basically, you will fill out this form, and this form is worth 10 points. And you will answer things, some real simple, like who are you working with, uh, and some verification that you have the ability to communicate with each other. Then you're doing a little bit of research on who who are your real life representatives for what 99% of you are residents of Sandusky, Ohio. So what I need, and I give you a few websites to use, is in real life, who's your member of the House? Remember, it's the national level, the U.S. House of Representatives, list their name and their political party. So we have one member of the House that represents the basic area that we live in, and you've got to make sure you get that right person. List below their email or mailing address. And that's because if we come up with a really good law, I'd like to share that with them. In real life, who is one of your two senators that represents you, again, on the national level, US Senate, and there will be two. List their name and political party. And then you're going to list their email or actual physical mailing address. And then you give me the second senator. Then we get into the mock Congress state questions. This is where I make you choose. I want you to pretend you live anywhere other than Ohio. So you could say Alaska or Nebraska or Wyoming or Michigan or whatever you want to do. And then you're answering questions about that state. So that's the first phase. It's pretty straightforward, but towards the end, you have to pick a general topic that you're researching. And I don't want to fool anybody here. We are trying to get you to start to think about what your law might be about. So if you decide the general topic is going to be coronavirus, then that's you're going to end up writing a law that somehow in some way relates to coronavirus. I will again probably assign this on Tuesday. Now, after that, we're not I'm just giving you a preview. This is not your concern yet. This is actually an ungraded form, but you must complete it to do the next part, where you just have to tell me what your topic is going to be that you're going to research. Maybe you're going to do gun control. Maybe you're going to do, again, coronavirus. Maybe you're going to do something with the economy. But it does have to fit into certain objectives. This is the whole reason. These objectives are what I'm charged with teaching, and in a way, I'm cheating by letting you guys teach yourselves either 31, 32, or 33. So you have to tell me in this form, and again, I'll explain it a little bit more later on, uh, how you're going to, which one of these objectives you're going to address. And then, very important here, this is for no points. I'm just sharing this with you. This is your chance. You'll get to see this rubric this week, and you'll get to see this and say, okay, now that I know how Penrose is going to grade the speech or how he's going to grade a presentation through like slides or something like that, you have to then pick, will we be doing a speech or will we be doing slides or PowerPoint? Again, you won't have to do this actually for a couple weeks yet, or at least a week and a half, but I want you to know how you're going to be graded before you make that decision. After those are all in, then, then you'll be writing your law. Now, this is a big chunk of your grade. This is 25 points. I'll get into this in detail when we get there, but I walk you through the steps of writing a law, how to do proper statements. I even have some embedded videos to help reteach you some of this after I teach you later on, in case you've forgotten. And so we're going to walk you through this sort of process. If you've ever been involved in Model UN, they use a very similar process to how we actually write laws. And so I used a very similar process to how Model UN works with not only the resolution statements, but with their presentations to do this. If you've never heard of Model UN, don't worry about it. But those of you who have, it's going to look very familiar to you. Then a small percentage of you, we're talking about maybe 10 kids out of the 108 that I have in class, maybe in committees. And they, instead of having a speech or some sort of slideshow or PowerPoint, they will have 2 to 3 of these forms to fill out for 10 points each. Again, I will get back to this is just the big broad overview. Do not become overwhelmed by this because I'm going to give this to you in little pieces, parts. And the first thing you will do is simply do this planning form. I will reteach how to do this planning form probably tomorrow in a little bit more detail. But today you have one task. You can work by yourself, no problem. In a group of 2, no problem. In a group of 3, no problem. You must, in the comments below today's assignment though, tell me who you're going to work with. If you do not list you working with somebody in the comments below, and by the way, you both have to comment. So if Sarah says she's working with Fred, Fred has to say, yep, I'm working with Sarah. I want you both to make that comment, that commitment. Then I'll put you in a group. You must do that today. If it is not done by midnight, I'm just going to assume you're working solo, which is no big deal to me. It's not a problem. In some ways, it's pretty easy to work on your own. I have no issue with that. But I want these groups selected today if you're going to do them. I have no other assignment for you other than for you to sit down and think, okay, can I talk to this person? Do we have the ability to Zoom? Can I text? I don't know, maybe your neighbors, you can shout out the windows from more than 6 feet apart. I don't care as long as you have the ability to communicate with the person you choose to be in your group. If you do not have that ability, work solo. That's not an issue at all. Again, in some ways, I think working on your own can be easier. It is your choice, but it is an option. If you decide to work in a group of three, one of you must be the committee member who has to do a lot of extra reading, but will not be doing the presentation. That is an entirely separate grade. So I want to make sure, oh, there's a typo right there. Gross. I want to make sure you understand that. So if you're in a group of three, one of you must be doing committee feedback, which means you're going to be reading a lot of other people's laws and doing some research on them and giving back some input to them. You'll also have a little bit of power in determining which bills make it to the floor. But again, one of you has to do that. That's just the way it is. That's the role of the third person. You can determine which person it is, but if all three of you, none of you want anything to do with it, then you better go off and find someone else to work with because every group of three has one person spun off to do that feedback. So that's it. Take today to do your document of the week since you really didn't have much work to do, and then take the opportunity to communicate with your peers and decide, oh, do I want to work with this person? Again, I must have both of you comment below uh, in this classroom stream posting, I want to work with Sally. And then that other person, Sally, says, yep, I want to work with Fred or whoever it is. Okay. And we will take you through this step by step. All we need to do today is pick that partner or just say, I'm going to work solo. If you do not answer, I'm going to put you in, you know, a non-group. You're going to work solo. And then we will start the actual graded portion of this Tuesday. And again, I will review how to do part one, the PBL research, that beginning phase, the planning guide tomorrow. Hope this sort of gave you an overview. Again, there wasn't a lot today, so make sure you do that document of the week. Just get it out of the way and get it turned in. Okay? Very good. Everybody, stay safe. I hope you did well on your test. And if you haven't done that test, see me right away. All right. Be safe.